Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to show you all how to begin your contour drawing of your shoe. And this is not just a good way of beginning this particular drawing, but it's a pretty good way of beginning any drawing that you do. So just to show you what we're going to be drawing, we're going to be drawing our shoes just like this. So let me see if I can hold, sorry, probably making you dizzy. I'm going to see if I can hold my laptop. So we are looking at our shoes here. And then, let's see, I'll have my paper right here. All right, so when we start our drawing of our shoes, what I want you to think about this as we're drawing, we're starting with these two big kind of rectangular shapes, and we're going to block this in a pretty simplified way, okay? There are some people who can hold their pencil and start drawing these perfect edges, and they go all the way around and everything looks perfect, and they go like this and everything looks great, and they go all the way around, and they just kind of start on one side of their paper and end on the other, and everything looks perfect. There are, I guess, people who can do it that way, but I am certainly not one of those people, and most people aren't. It's really not an easy way of going about doing things, and I want this to be easy for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start it like these very kind of blocky shapes, and then we're going to gradually make things more and more detailed. Think about it like if you were writing a paper. If you had to write an essay paper, would you start your paper having the first sentence be perfect, and the second sentence be perfect, and then the third sentence be perfect? Or would you just kind of throw all your ideas out onto a paper and just gradually kind of revise and improve kind of as a whole? Most people, I think, kind of do it the second way. It's just, for some reason, it's just easier. So that's how we're going to make our drawing. So, all right, so we're going to start this by blocking in these shapes. So basically, the first thing that I might do is I'm just going to look at where the front of my shoe is going to be and where the back of it is. And I'm just going to start by making a little mark down over here for where the front is, and I'm going to have the back of it be about over here, okay? I know that now my shoe has to fit inside of this space in here. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to kind of throw in some sections for where the sides are going to be. I'm not totally sure if you can see what I'm doing here because I'm doing it really lightly. Maybe I'll just kind of darken it in. It's going to be these big kind of blocky shapes that, and so basically within this section here is where my shoe is going to fit into. So I've got this big kind of blocky shape. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the second shoe. Big blocky shape. I might end up changing some of these lines down the road, which is fine. I'm not committing to any one of these things just yet here. There's lots and lots of lines, keeping it loose and moving. So I'm going to have, again, my other shoe in the back is going to be kind of going over here, and then it goes just off the paper, kind of like. So now I've got this kind of, the back of it's over here, the front of it's going a little bit off the paper, and it's just kind of fitting in within these sections here. So, nice and light and loose. That's the name of the game here. All right, so then from here, though, I can start to kind of fix little things here and there. If I'm looking at this, I can kind of start to fix little things here and there that aren't quite working for me, and I can start to firm up the parts of it that are working for me. So down here, I know I want to kind of widen up the toe in this part, so I'm just going to start to darken in a little bit as it kind of comes around over here, and then this part kind of juts in here and then kind of comes out over here. And then from looking over here, this is kind of coming up, this is coming up over here. The little back part where I stick my foot into, foothold, is going to be here. And then kind of comes over here. So I've got this kind of opening right up in this area. And I'm just going to go ahead and start to draw through into this section here and get in where that, that opening is in my shoe. And then so the laces are kind of up on the top over here, and that just kind of sticks out. All right, so becoming a little bit more like a shoe, but still pretty loose and scribbly here, okay? So now we're gonna do the same thing now with this back one here. I'm just fixing up old mistakes and kind of like slightly finalizing parts that are working for me. So the bottom I'm pretty happy with. That's just kind of straight across like this. And the back of my heels here, they kind of like come forward like this, and then kind of start to jump up here. There's that like little angle right here. So I want to make sure I get that. And then the opening part where my foot goes kind of curves down over here. And then I'm going to get, again, the other side here, the part that's kind of coming towards me. I show how that looks. So that's going to kind of be up here like this. And then comes up over here. And then the laces are all kind of up in this section over here. So that this kind of curves around. And then this kind of comes over here. And that goes off over there. And this is kind of straight down over here. And blah, 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 blah. All right. Now, again, I've got kind of blocky shape still of what my shoes are looking like, but I know that they're somewhere in here. I know that the real version of my shoe, the one I'm going to end up happy with, is going to be somewhere within all of these lines. I was saying before how some people kind of start to draw and get everything perfect, but like if I'm just going to look at my shoe and I'm going to try to follow around, just slowly kind of following around the edge of where my shoe is over here, I might end up with something that has good parts to it. But the chances of me making something where everything lines up perfectly all the way around is slim. It really is. It's really slim. If I'm going to kind of come over here and kind of come down, and then have this and kind of come into here, and then this comes down, and then that comes down. I might end up with something sort of tolerable, but it's going to be really tough. I don't really want to commit to these lines, so don't draw this way. Think loose, sketchy lines, and then from here we'll start to solidify things, okay? So I'm just going to give it one more pass. I'm basically, each time I'm going in, I'm kind of chiseling away a little bit more to make it just a little more shoe-like. So now I'm going to kind of come in here. I've got like the little lip part of the sole, and that kind of comes up like that. I've got where the sole is here, and then I've got where the part of the shoe kind of tucks into that is like that. And then this part kind of curves around. Now I'm probably going to go back in and start to erase some of these lines a little bit because I don't want it to be really dark everywhere as I go around this. But for right now, I'm just kind of keeping things dark, mainly because I want you to be able to see what it is that I'm doing here, because I'm not a professional cinematographer, and this is just being recorded with my laptop. All right, so probably at this point, maybe one of your first questions on how to go about doing this is how are you going to do those laces? So let's kind of tackle that, and then I might just kind of set you guys free to just kind of continue working on your own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to just kind of draw not the laces, but the part of the leather, or whatever this is made out of, the part of the shoe that is being held together by the laces. So basically it's just this kind of thin opening in here. When you do your laces, start at the bottom. They're much easier to kind of work out at the bottom than they are at the top where all of the tied part is. We don't want to worry about the tied part just yet. We want to think, we want to kind of take things easy and simplified. So we're going to start more on the bottom. Actually, let me get a little bit more of this kind of shoe architecture drawn in on here. So it has those kind of lines, and then this part of the curve is up here, and then there's like a little thing up here. All right. Okay. So when we go and we start to do where the laces are, our very first bottom lace down here is basically just going to be a straight across shape. So just that kind of shape like this. You're going to want to make sure it goes past the line where, like this line, like the two halves here, we want it to go past, and we want it to kind of sit in here a little bit like that. And then the rest of them are all going to be kind of crisscrossing lines going up, back and forth, okay? So I'm going to look and see on my next lace, I'm going to look and see where that one is going and what exactly it's doing. And so this lace is going, this lace here is going to go under that one. So I'm making it go underneath, and it goes kind of across over here. And then my next lace is going underneath this one. So that one's going to kind of come up like this, and then kind of across like that. And we might see a little bit of it over here on this side. And as you go across, you want these to kind of look like they're lined up. All of them are going to kind of look like they're lined up with each other. So that's there. The next lace is going underneath this flap, and then it overlaps this one over here. I probably should have did something now that I'm even looking at this. If you look at your laces, that's probably the where the laces go. It's about equal. Like they're spaced apart pretty equally. So now that I look at this, I can look at that and be like, that's too close together compared to this. So if I'm happy with where this one is, I might then just kind of come over here and make this one a little bit farther apart, like that. And from here, and we can go back and we'll erase all this stuff and clean it up later. For right now, no worries. So I'm happy with that spacing, and this will kind of come to here. So that lace then goes underneath this one, and then I can see a little bit of it kind of going through over on that side. So I'm just kind of walking this up at this point here. So I want, my space is like 1, 2, 3. My next one wants to be about there. And that goes underneath over here. And then this one goes underneath on that side and then kind of comes over. So kind of like that, just sort of walking up the shoe going across. Once you get up to where the knot is up here, let's see if we can kind of start to get some of that in. So this, I'm going to have another one over here. This one, we got to kind of do these laces first. So that'll be up here. And then once we start to do these lace, I'm going to kind of look at kind of the big shape. So I've got one part of this thing that kind of trickles down like that. And I'm just kind of drawing rough kind of blocking in of the shape of it. And then I've got some knot kind of stuff happening over here. So again, not really worrying too much about it, just thinking kind of like blocky shapes. And then I've got a little, what do you call that part of your shoe? Your little lace in part over here. And then I've got another kind of floppy shape over here. All right. So to keep this from becoming too much of a mess, we want to erase some of these areas that are we're drawing through. So I'm just going to kind of come in here and erase a little bit so I'm not drawing all on top of other kind of scribbled in marks. Okay, so this first lace is kind of thin at the top, and then it gets wider over here, and then it flips in, so it's going to be thin down over here, and then it gets wider again. So it starts kind of thin, and then thick, and then thin, and then thick. And that stuff all kind of bunches together within this kind of twisted part of the knot. And again, if it doesn't look 100% just like what you're looking at, it might not matter, honestly. This is going to be over here, and then we're going to see a little bit of this part of the lace. So this part of the lace is wide down here, and then starts to get a little narrower as it goes back over here, and then it does this kind of kink down here, and then it curves, and then it starts to get wider over here. And then again, that's just going to tuck right back inside of that, that lace over here. So we're getting something that is, you know, again, nothing is all perfect in here, but there's still parts of this that are starting to work, and we're just kind of gradually going back and kind of tightening things up. Like right now, I'm pretty happy with up here. I'm not wild about what's going on with this part of the toe. I kind of feel like my feet are bigger than this, and I think that I need to kind of come out a little bit more as I look at this. So if I'm going to kind of make any more changes in here, I think that's going to be here, and then maybe this front part of the toe kind of comes down a little more. So maybe something kind of more like that. That looks like more my size of foot. So again, I can come back in, I can start to drag my eraser over some of these more sketchier lines, and then start to darken in the lines that I'm actually happy with. So I'm going to come in here and kind of start to get in those. The most important thing about drawing like this is really looking at what you're seeing and drawing what you're seeing. A big common phrase that I remember hearing all the time as a young art student was draw what you see and not what you think that you see. Because we all kind of have these ideas in our head about what a shoe should look like. And we just start drawing, and we just start drawing what we think a shoe looks like, and we start kind of focusing on making a good drawing, and we don't really focus on what it is that our shoe actually looks like. And you're never going to get a drawing that looks like your object unless you're looking at it. And sometimes your object will look kind of weird, but you still have to go with it and kind of trust that you're going to end up with something that looks right. And if you're actually really focusing on your object, you will end up with something that looks good. But if you're only looking at your drawing and trying to make a really pretty drawing, you might end up with a pretty drawing, but one that doesn't really look like what your object looks like. So now I'm kind of going in and looking around at those little folds. So I'm not making a perfectly straight line across here, but one that actually kind of follows the curve of that shoe. And again, I can kind of come in and start to erase some of those sketchier lines and just leave the ones that I'm happy with. I also have little treads on my feet here, on the bottoms of my shoes. So I'm just going to kind of start to, what's a good word? Chunkify. I'll just say chunkify. Chunkify the sole to kind of get these little rigid little ridge marks on here. And basically, I'm just kind of darkening in some little spots in here just to give it that sense of texture. We don't see any of those little chunks around this part of the curve, so I'm not going to put any in there. I'm just going to draw what I see and not what I think I see. So even though I know there are those little ridges under there, I'm not going to draw them right here because I'm not seeing them. They don't start to show up again until about over here. And then I've got another one over here. And then I've got another one over here, and blah, blah, blah. All right. So starting to get something here. And again, if you can kind of see, there are still a lot of kind of sketchy lines in here, lines that I just kind of put in when I was planning out what I was doing that I'm then just going back in and erasing because they're not really that correct. I end up kind of finding the correct ones later only by seeing the, well, incorrect ones. So we've got something kind of like the beginning part of this. Let me move this paper closer to my camera. So we've got kind of a decent version of what this part of the shoe looks like. I think from here you guys should be able to take it. So just to recap, don't start out thinking you have the perfect edge. Think big, loose, sketchy. Let me even kind of hold my paper closer. Big, loose, sketchy lines going all over the place here, okay? Be non-committal. Have a bunch of lines. I know that in here, somewhere in there is the right line, but I'm never just going to start a drawing and like think that I have it right off the bat. I'm always going to kind of keep things light and loose at the beginning so I can just kind of go back and refine, okay? Hopefully that makes sense.